where meaning quietly replaces reality. Consider this carefully before anything else. Nothing that happens to you carries meaning on its own. Events arrive as bare facts, sounds, words, movements, delays. The disturbance you feel does not come packaged with them. It is added. It appears when the mind moves faster than reason and supplies an explanation. That explanation feels immediate, obvious, and personal. Yet it is an interpretation, not the event itself. You are accustomed to saying, "This situation upset me," or "That person made me angry." This way of speaking hides the real mechanism. Between the situation and the reaction, something else occurs. The mind assigns value. It decides that what happened is bad, unfair, threatening, or disrespectful. Only after this decision does disturbance arise. This distinction is not comforting. It removes excuses. If interpretation is the source of disturbance, then responsibility cannot be placed on circumstances, other people, or luck. It returns to you. Not as blame, but as ownership. Most people never notice this step. Interpretation operates quietly, presenting itself as reality rather than as judgment. Because of this, attention is misdirected outward. Energy is spent trying to control outcomes, manage other people, or replay events. None of this addresses the true cause. Stoic discipline begins by refusing this confusion. It does not deny emotion. It examines the moment emotion is authorized. The question is not what happened, but what you told yourself about what happened. Hold this distinction. What you mistake as personal authority. Everything that follows depends on one clear distinction. You regularly experience frustration not because life is chaotic, but because ownership is confused. You treat what is not yours as if it were, and neglect what is fully yours as if it were optional. Stoic discipline begins by drawing a hard boundary here, not as a theory, but as a daily operating rule. What belongs to you is limited, but precise. Your judgments belong to you. Your intentions belong to you. Your choices, your refusals, your assent or withholding of assent, these are yours. They answer only to your reason. Nothing outside this boundary can touch them unless you permit it. What does not belong to you is far broader. Other people's behavior is not yours. Their opinions, moods, decisions, and misunderstandings are not yours. Outcomes are not yours. Reputation is not yours. Timing is not yours. Even your body, in the long run, is not fully yours. Treating these as possessions creates anxiety because they cannot be secured. Most effort is wasted at this point of confusion. You argue internally with events as if they were negotiable. You rehearse conversations to control how others should have spoken. You replay delays, mistakes, or missed opportunities as if repetition could reverse them. This is not discipline. It is misdirected energy. Consider a simple example. Someone speaks sharply to you. The words are heard. That is the event. Immediately, the mind declares, "I was disrespected." At that moment, ownership is misassigned. The tone of another person is not yours. The meaning you attach to it is. Yet attention skips over this and rushes outward, toward justification or retaliation. Or consider waiting. A plan is delayed. The delay exists. Nothing more. But the mind adds, "This should not be happening, or my time is being wasted." Again, what is not yours, the timing, is treated as if it violated an agreement. Disturbance follows, not from waiting, but from the demand that reality comply. Epictetus insisted on this boundary because without it, discipline collapses into struggle. You cannot train what you do not own. You cannot command what never belonged to you. Attempting to do so produces exhaustion, not strength. This does not mean passivity. It means accuracy. When effort is placed only where authority exists, it becomes effective. You can examine a judgment. You can delay assent. You can choose a response that aligns with reason rather than impulse. These actions are always available, regardless of circumstance. The difficulty is that the mind prefers the illusion of external control to the discipline of internal responsibility. It feels easier to demand that others change than to refine judgment. Yet every time you do this, you abandon the only ground where freedom is possible. Stoic practice returns you to this ground repeatedly. Not once, but constantly. Each situation is an opportunity to ask a single question: is this within my authority or not? If it is not, release it without resentment. If it is, attend to it without delay. This distinction explains where effort is misplaced, but not yet how disturbance takes hold. The moment meaning is accepted as fact. Now we look at what actually creates disturbance. Between what happens and how you react, there is a small but decisive interval. Stoic writers called this the moment of assent. Something appears to the mind, an impression, and the mind either agrees with it or withholds agreement. Everything that follows depends on this decision. Impressions arrive automatically. A sound is heard. A message is read. A facial expression is noticed. The body may respond before reason speaks. This is not failure. It is how perception works. You do not choose impressions any more than you choose the weather. What you do choose is whether to endorse the story the impression suggests. An impression says, "This is insulting." Another says, "This is dangerous." Another says, "This means you are being ignored." These are not facts. They are proposals. Most people accept them instantly, without examination. The acceptance is so fast that it feels invisible. Yet it is there. This is why two people can experience the same event and respond differently. The event does not change. The impression may be similar. The difference lies in whether the judgment is accepted as true. Consider criticism. Someone points out a mistake. The impression arrives: I am being attacked. If assent is given, the body tightens, words rush forward, and defensiveness follows. If assent is withheld, another interpretation becomes possible: this is information, or this person may be clumsy, but the content can still be evaluated. The feeling may still arise, but it does not govern action. Or consider delay. A reply does not come when expected. The impression appears: I am being dismissed. If this judgment is accepted, irritation grows. If it is suspended, the mind remains open. Many explanations are possible. None require disturbance. Stoic discipline does not aim to eliminate impressions. That would be impossible. It aims to slow the agreement. The pause is small, often no more than a breath. Yet within it lies freedom. This is why Epictetus placed such emphasis on attention. Without attention, assent happens by habit. Old judgments rush in to fill uncertainty. The mind prefers a familiar story, even a painful one, to restraint. You may object that emotions feel immediate and uncontrollable. That is partly true. Feelings can arise before reason intervenes. But feeling is not the same as consent. Anger can appear without being obeyed. Anxiety can be felt without being justified. The discipline lies not in suppressing sensation, but in refusing to grant it authority. Most people reverse this order. They feel first, agree second, and explain later. Stoic training reverses it. You notice the feeling. You examine the claim behind it. Only then do you decide what action, if any, is appropriate. This requires repetition. The mind is accustomed to equating speed with accuracy. It believes that the first interpretation is the truest. This belief itself must be questioned. In many cases, the first interpretation is merely the loudest. The pause before assent is not passive. It is active restraint. It is the moment when reason steps forward and asks, is this judgment necessary? Often the answer is no. When the answer is yes, the response that follows is cleaner, proportionate, and free of regret. Understanding this mechanism does not create discipline. Recognition alone changes nothing. The habit of assent must be trained. Why discipline is training, not pressure. This is where most people misunderstand discipline. They imagine discipline as force applied to unwilling parts of themselves. They picture suppression, endurance, or severity. When this model fails, as it often does, they conclude that discipline is unnatural or unsustainable. Stoic practice rejects this framing entirely. Discipline is not force. It is training. Training assumes repetition, patience, and gradual refinement. No one expects a muscle to strengthen under a single strain. No one confuses one difficult effort with lasting capacity. Yet with the mind, this confusion is common. People expect clarity under pressure without having trained clarity beforehand. Stoic discipline operates before the moment of difficulty. It prepares the mind to recognize impressions without immediately obeying them. This preparation is quiet, often unremarkable. It looks less like heroism and more like routine. The goal is not to eliminate emotion. That expectation creates frustration. Emotions arise as part of perception. What discipline trains is the relationship to them. You learn to notice a feeling without assigning it authority. You allow sensation to exist without allowing it to decide. This requires repetition because habit is powerful. The mind is efficient. It prefers familiar judgments because they require less effort. Old interpretations are reused not because they are accurate, but because they are available. Training introduces alternatives and rehearses restraint until it becomes familiar as well. Consider how this works in practice. Each time an impression appears and you pause before assenting, even briefly, you strengthen a capacity. Each time you notice a judgment and decline to endorse it, you reinforce a boundary. Nothing dramatic occurs. But over time, reactions lose their urgency. This is why Stoic discipline does not rely on motivation. Motivation fluctuates. Training does not. You do not wait to feel disciplined. You perform small acts of attention consistently. Over time, these acts accumulate into stability. Force fails because it treats resistance as an enemy. Training treats resistance as information. If the mind resists pausing, that is not a moral failure. It is a signal of what requires practice. You return to the exercise without condemnation. Another misunderstanding is the belief that discipline should feel harsh. Stoic discipline is firm, but not punitive. Punishment assumes wrongdoing. Training assumes development. When you respond to lapses with self-attack, you add a second, unnecessary judgment. The original impression is joined by a new one, I have failed. This compounds disturbance rather than reducing it. Epictetus emphasized this distinction repeatedly. He did not ask students to perform extraordinary acts. He asked them to practice noticing, to practice delaying, to practice choosing deliberately in small, ordinary moments. Discipline grows from these moments, not from dramatic resolve. Training also requires accepting imperfection. No one maintains continuous attention. Assent will sometimes be given too quickly. This is expected. The practice is not to achieve constant control, but to shorten recovery. You notice sooner. You return sooner. Over time, the interval between impression and correction narrows. This is how freedom is built, not by eliminating error, but by reducing its duration and influence. The disciplined mind does not avoid all disturbance. It recovers without escalation. Stoic discipline is therefore quiet, repetitive, and internal. It does not advertise itself. It does not rely on external reinforcement. Its measure is simple: how quickly reason returns. Training remains abstract unless it appears in daily life. How ordinary moments become the practice. This practice is proven in ordinary moments. Stoic discipline does not wait for crises. It is shaped in what appears minor and repetitive. Daily life provides more than enough material. Delays, interruptions, misunderstandings, fatigue, inconvenience, these are not obstacles to practice. They are the practice. There are 3 exercises that anchor this work. They are simple, but not casual. Each one trains attention at a different point in the process of judgment. The first is anticipating impressions without anxiety. This does not mean rehearsing problems or imagining disasters. It means recognizing, calmly and accurately, that difficulty is part of daily life. People will be late. Plans will change. Messages will be unclear. Bodies will tire. When these facts are expected, impressions lose their power to surprise. Expectation here is not pessimism. It is precision. You remind yourself that inconvenience is normal, not personal. When the impression arrives, this is unfair or this should not be happening, it finds less resistance, because reason was already present. The second practice is pausing before assent. This is the central exercise. When an impression appears, you do not rush to correct it or replace it. You pause. Often one breath is enough. In that brief interval, you allow the impression to exist without endorsement. You do not argue with it. You do not suppress it. You simply refrain from saying yes. This pause interrupts habit. It creates space for examination. You may decide that the judgment is reasonable. Or you may decide it is unnecessary. The key is that the decision is deliberate. Most people underestimate this moment because it feels small. Yet it is where authority resides. Without the pause, training cannot occur. With it, even imperfect responses become informed rather than reactive. The third practice is the evening review. At the end of the day, you revisit actions and judgments without praise or blame. You ask simple questions. Where did I assent too quickly? Where did I pause? Where did I confuse what was mine with what was not? This review is not a moral inventory. It is an operational one. Guilt has no role here. Guilt is itself an unexamined judgment, adding weight without clarity. The purpose is understanding, not self-accusation. You note patterns. Certain situations trigger speed. Certain judgments repeat. This information guides tomorrow's attention. Nothing more is required. These practices work together. Anticipation prepares the mind. The pause creates choice. Review refines accuracy. None of them rely on force. None require dramatic effort. They also do not produce constant calm. That expectation would be another misjudgment. What they produce is reliability. When disturbance arises, it does not escalate unchecked. When error occurs, recovery is quicker. Over time, something shifts. You begin to recognize impressions earlier. You feel the impulse to agree, but you are no longer compelled. Reactions soften, not because life improves, but because judgment becomes more disciplined. This is why Stoic practice insists on the ordinary. Grand resolutions fail because they bypass habit. Small repetitions succeed because they reshape it. Discipline lives in these moments. Quiet. Unseen. Repeated. From practice, a different kind of freedom emerges. What freedom remains untouched? Freedom is often misunderstood. Many people imagine freedom as ease, comfort, or the absence of friction. They expect circumstances to cooperate, people to behave reasonably, and plans to unfold smoothly. When this does not happen, they conclude that freedom has been taken from them. Stoic discipline corrects this misunderstanding at its root. Freedom, in the Stoic sense, is not about what happens. It is about what remains under your command when what happens is not what you prefer. Life does not become easier through discipline. Inconvenience does not disappear. People do not suddenly become considerate. Bodies still age. Outcomes remain uncertain. None of this changes. What changes is where authority is located. When judgment is trained, authority moves inward. You no longer require external alignment in order to remain steady. You can experience disappointment without collapse, criticism without resentment, delay without agitation. Not because these experiences are pleasant, but because they do not govern you. This distinction matters. Comfort depends on conditions. Freedom does not. Comfort is fragile because it relies on variables outside your control. Freedom is stable because it depends on how you use what is yours. Epictetus was precise on this point. He did not promise tranquility through arrangement of life, but through arrangement of judgment. The world remains unpredictable. The disciplined mind becomes reliable. This reliability is quiet. It does not announce itself. Others may not notice it at all. You still respond. You still act. You still make decisions. The difference is that reaction is no longer compulsory. You are not dragged by impressions. You are not hurried by interpretations that have not been examined. Freedom appears here as maintenance, not achievement. There is no moment where the work is finished. Judgment must be watched continually. Assent must be renewed. The pause must be practiced again and again. This is not a flaw. It is the nature of attention. Because of this, Stoic freedom is not threatened by difficulty. Difficulty simply reveals the state of training. When pressure increases, habits appear. If discipline is weak, disturbance escalates. If discipline is practiced, disturbance is contained. This is why freedom is compatible with constraint. Even in limited circumstances, even under obligation, even amid loss, judgment remains available. You can still choose how you interpret what is happening. You can still decide what meaning, if any, you assign to it. This does not mean indifference. Care remains. Preference remains. What disappears is the belief that your well-being depends on outcomes. When that belief dissolves, a quiet strength takes its place. You stop demanding that life cooperate in order for you to be composed. You stop treating frustration as evidence of injustice. You stop adding unnecessary judgments to what already exists. Nothing external must change for this to begin. No condition needs to be satisfied. The work is internal and immediate. Each impression offers the same choice, agreement or restraint. This is the freedom that cannot be taken, because it was never granted by circumstances to begin with. The principle is complete. Keeping authority where it belongs. Nothing here requires escalation. The source of disturbance has been identified, and it is not external. Events remain what they are. People continue to act according to their own judgments. Circumstances unfold without consultation. None of this needs to be corrected before discipline can begin. The work returns, as it always has, to interpretation. You are not asked to control impressions. You are not asked to prevent emotion. You are not asked to arrange life so that nothing unwanted occurs. You are asked to notice the moment meaning is added, and to take responsibility for whether that meaning is accepted. This responsibility cannot be delegated. It cannot be postponed. It cannot be shared with circumstances. Each judgment is either examined or it is not. Each assent is either deliberate or automatic. There is no third option. Stoic discipline does not promise perfection. Assent will sometimes be given too quickly. Old habits will reappear. Disturbance will still arise. None of this negates the practice. What matters is whether attention returns, and how quickly. The mistake is to treat lapses as failures rather than information. Each reaction reveals the current state of training. Nothing more needs to be added to it. No self-attack is required. You simply note what happened and return to what is yours. Over time, this return becomes familiar. Interpretation loses its authority to disguise itself as fact. Impressions are still felt, but they no longer command immediate obedience. You begin to experience difficulty without surrendering judgment to it. This is not withdrawal from life. It is participation without confusion. You continue to act, decide, and respond, but with clarity about where control resides. The discipline is simple. It is not easy. And it remains yours. Return to what is yours.